Hey guys, welcome to Play. This is the Valve Steam Deck, a Linux-based handheld PC that promises to let you play AAA games on the go anywhere, kind of like a more powerful Switch, if you will. This launched in 2022. It is now 2023, and with competition like the ROG Ally and the Lenovo Legion Go and Neo Decks, Windows X1, a bunch of just handhelds coming out that are potentially more powerful than this, does it still live up to the promise of what it did promise at the time? And is it worth your consideration, especially for the type of gamer you may be? Let's get into it. So like I said, the deck looks like this. It's pretty hefty, pretty chunky, much bigger than the Nintendo Switch. I think I have one here for comparison. So if this is a Nintendo Switch, this would be the deck. It would cover it completely, all right? Except for the Nintendo Switch is a bit more modular. You can take the arms off. This you cannot. This comes rock solid, baked in. On the outside, it's a 7-inch screen that has a 1280 by 800 resolution, essentially 720p, has an SD card slot underneath right here. It has hefty grips on the side and back buttons to give it more of that pro feel. So you can pretty much program whatever you want to function in these back buttons. So it is a complete controller end to end. And it has 2 track pads up front alongside the joysticks here. Again, for that whole PC feel. Valve did have its own controller way back, that's what they brought here and separated, and it works better here, in my opinion, but if you're not into serious PC gaming, that doesn't concern you. Back to the Steam Deck. So when this thing hit the shelf, it came out in 3 variants, basically separating them by size and a few minor aesthetics, which I think are completely ignorable. 64 gig model, a 256 gig model, and a 512 model. The 512 model being the highest tier and the 64 gig model being the lowest tier. For the 5 gig model, the 512 model, you get something called a anti-glare screen and a slightly bit more premium case. But that's really it. The machine is the same, performs the same. You just get more space for that price. Now to get that premium price, you're forking out $650 for 512 gigs of space and the same RAM, same everything. Right off the bat, the first level of tinkering to consider, if you are considering buying one now, I would say just buy the base model at $399, 400 bucks, and spend another $140, $150 to upgrade it to the top tier, and probably even better. Because within that $140 or $50, you can buy a 1 terabyte SSD, which you can stick in here, automatically upgrading it to the next level, better than the premium tier. You can buy a screen guard to give you that same anti-glare effect that you would have gotten on the premium model. And within that same $140, $150, you can buy magnetic Hall replacement sticks for your joysticks to replace them to prevent drifts in any future overgaming you may have, because magnetic Hall sticks are less prone to drifting. So for all that, you spent what, $540, $550 bucks, still not at the premium price point, but you already have a better machine. Some might argue that the box is a little plushier at the premium level. Not really. It doesn't make much of a difference in my opinion, because the difference is it's the same box. The logo is just a bit more embossed and the inside is a bit more soft. But that doesn't affect your gaming experience, so who cares? Everything else you get the same. You're gonna get the same power adapter that comes in the box. You're gonna get a case with the lower base, and you're gonna get your Steam Deck, and that's what matters. So like I said, that's level 1 tinkering, right? We haven't even started talking about games. That's just tinkering to get your hardware up to spec. Now, and that's optional, entirely up to you. But if you want to be a casual gamer, you don't want to mess with the hardware, you're paranoid about propping open your device to do all that, it's okay. You can just buy whatever model you want and go to the store, and if you already have a Steam library, download and play. That's what you think. No, 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 no. That's where the level 2 tinkering came with the Steam Deck. If you weren't used to installing and worrying about updates and tweaking mods for your PC, you may find it a bit difficult even if you're a casual gamer, because on the Steam store, on your library, which you already have, they indicate to say, this game works great with the deck. That game, not so great. You have to take that with a pinch of salt, depending on your situation, because some of them say they work great, and honestly, they don't work great-ish. You sort of have to figure out how to get them to work great, if they do work at all. And other games say they just don't work at all, and you can try them and they'll play flawlessly. Again, depending on how much tinkering you're willing to do. So if you want to sit in that same circle where I'm just buying games and playing off what I own, you still might have to go through some level of tinkering. And it can get frustrating, to be very honest. I mean, the early days of this machine, if you weren't willing to go back into that community to find a problem solver to fix what you had just to play a game you already own, you could just get angry and toss this thing out the window. But again, that's my experience. I'm pretty sure it was a lot of people's experience. It just felt like it wasn't ready when it came out. But the great thing is that the Steam community is really strong. And there's always someone who's had the same problem, who's figured it out, who's willing to help you. So that's one advantage you have here. Someone is always willing to help you fix your problem online, and you can find ways around it. And that's where level 3 tinkering comes in. And level 3 essentially is, yes, it kind of does deliver on the ability to play AAA games anywhere you go. In fact, this thing is a great emulation device. You can emulate pretty much every console that ever existed up until the PS4. And shout out to EmuDeck, because people like EmuDeck have created software that makes it easy for you to emulate all those consoles and just download one software, install it, and you're good to go. You don't have to overthink it and over worry about the technicalities. Try to make it easy for you, but even those tools like that still require tweaking per emulator depending on the game you're playing, and it can be a bit overwhelming. But what do you expect? It's a Linux-based system. It is a handheld computer. In fact, you can partition this thing and install Windows and run desktop apps off of it. It can dock like the Switch. It doesn't come with one by default, but there's tons of aftermarket docks you can buy, connected to the USB port at the top and connected to a monitor or a TV. The native resolution is 720p, but when it goes to the television and a bigger screen, it will give you full 1080p resolution. So it is that. So it is kind of like a more powerful Switch without the ability to break it apart and be more modular. So again, that's why I said this is more like a big boy Switch. Yes, you can find some AAA games on the Switch, but no disrespect to the Switch, I love the Switch, but you know what I mean. It's Nintendo. It's not a powerful machine, but this will rock those games in good, decent graphics and almost the same experience, almost, depending on your tinkering. Remember what I said. Anyway, back to emulation. Now, if you're in my generation, and a lot of people who played a lot of games from back in the day, emulation will be a very key point for you on the Steam Deck. It is a great emulation device. In fact, you're gonna dump, it gives you the advantage of carrying a lot of those old consoles you had on this thing. And because some of those games are really old, they could help you save battery life when you're playing them, especially if you use those tools we talked about earlier, cryo tools, downloading power tools, adjusting brightness, GPU settings, core settings, threads, it goes on and on. That's a totally different video. But my point is, the tinkering level you require to really enjoy this, you gotta be way more than a casual gamer. At least that's what I think. Sound on in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think. And that will save you some battery life, because you're not playing, if you're playing older emulation games that don't require that much power from way back, I'm talking about like SNES or Super Nintendo or PS Vita, you could drop the power ratings on each one and task the battery a bit less. Hence, you can get way more life out of this thing, get up to 5-6 hours playing those games. But since we're talking about battery, let's tell you what the real battery experience is like. So the battery experience on this, on AAA games or any high-powered or high-level graphics game, is not great. Personally, when I'm playing games like God of War or Call of Duty, I will get 1.5 to 2 hours max. At max resolution, I will burn this thing out. It'll be looking for a charge. And it's a decent battery, you know? It's a 5,313 milliamp hour battery, which is bigger than what you have on the Switch, which is a 4,210 milliamp hour battery. But still, because of the amount of power it's kicking out and running and the fan is blowing and all that, it'll burn that battery out. Now, a friend of mine claims he's playing AAA games and he's getting 5 hours, 6 hours. I'm like, yeah, whatever. So I'm waiting for him to come and tell me how he does that. If you guys know how he's working that out, please let me know in the comments below, but I have never gotten that experience. I have terrible battery life when it comes to proper AAA games. But when I'm emulating, I can play for hours on end, which is cool, which is not bad. Anyway, final thoughts. So is the Steam Deck worth it in 2023? So the guys over at Valve have said they're not looking to launch the Steam Deck 2 anytime soon. They believe this hardware is good to go, and they're gonna keep updating to make it work better. Are they keeping to that? Yes-ish. there's always a lot of updates coming up in the Steam community to make things work. Break one thing, fix more, but make things work. In the experience I've had, I have found a solution to almost every single problem I've had trying to work either a game or a setting on the Steam Deck. And that's the advantage you have with these kind of things. That supportive community that's been there to help you sort of walk through your problems. With those other machines, I'm not sure you're gonna find the same level of commitment from those communities. But too soon to tell. I will make another comparison video if I can loan some of those consoles from my friends, and we'll see how they run. But like I said, if you're considering buying the Steam Deck and you have a big Steam library and you have that community, you have all these tools that are available to you, Cryo Tools, EmuDeck to help you emulate if that's your thing, and you can't buy the base model and just upgrade to the top tier, and SSDs are getting cheaper by the day, yeah, you might still want to consider it. But if no, you want something simple and you just want to plug and play and you want, you know, no hassles, you don't want to tinker, you don't want to prop this open, you don't want to mess with your settings, the Steam Deck might not be for you because you will get frustrated, believe me. But personally, it's been a good machine for me because I like to break stuff. But honestly, all the changes, even changing the joysticks out there, is no soldering required. It's pretty much plug and play. I think I used Gully Kit. The screen I got, I can't remember the name, they'll put it on the screen somewhere. And then you can change out the case. It's pretty moddable. But like I said, not everybody wants to do that. Anyway, so that's my time. Let me know what you guys think about Steam Deck. If you're still considering it, I will see you in the next one. Take care.